Hopefully you guys are all doing well. Sorry about the later stream. Didn't have one planned for this morning, it turns out. So, hey, you can point the finger if you want. But we do want to go live, make sure we're going over things, some interesting things going on with Bitcoin, the DXY, kind of talk about the levels that we've been discussing, but also kind of go over the higher time frames yet again. I know we just hammer this home every single day, but that is something that I think we should do. So yesterday we talked specifically about a few things. So I'm going to go ahead and share my chart real quick here. And we're actually going to start off with the DXY because this is, what we were talking about yesterday. So this was the box that I had given you guys on the chart. Look at how nice that filled out. Right around when Jerome Powell started talking, you saw this action, which I thought was hilarious because obviously everyone was, hollering about how the DXY was selling off, mainly because it's at a pretty major inflection point. It may still come down a little bit, but it came right back up, gave it a back test and back down. What does that mean for Bitcoin? Not necessarily a lot, to be honest with you guys. It remains range bound. I do want to clean this chart up a little bit. We're going to build this one from scratch just real quick here because we can. And what you'll notice is that the weekly pivots were our destination. However, we still have this zone up here that we were looking at potentially. And we're not going to see that, however, if price remains down here around the September high, which was, if you go to the daily time frame, what we spoke about yesterday. We had said that realistically, you're still range bound. The levels are still going to be respected. But what you don't want to see is this like local area right here. I think this is your weekly open. You don't want to see this area. No, weekly opens up here. There we go. We don't want to see the September high being closed below on a daily basis, as we've not seen that for quite some time. So if the DXY is going to be pushing through that area, and I do say that cautiously because that is resistance, and it has been, this is going to be the region that you've not been below for several weeks. So closing below the September high right here. Again, if we just mapped this off just like we did yesterday, for those that weren't here, very simply put, you've got your local highs right here, and you can see that's been your support. Okay. Now we've also got a high time frame pivot there at 22,407. So there was a lot here to say that, this area of the chart would be support. But we also have some things to the downside we'd be looking at. And very simply put, if you start breaking below this local high area right around 22.4, it's going to start with that 22,810 level on a daily closing basis. You can see that you closed your daily beneath it right here and then came back above it. So what I do want to do is look through that real quick. So you can see we've come below the level right here. You came down below the level. And what did you do? You reclaimed it as support. You've run up. This is about the time the Jerome Powell speech was happening. You can see that the DXY is coming down and then finds support here after sweeping these local lows. Okay. And then comes back to retest. And that is where you've got your sell-off on the retest, or the comeback of it, I guess I should say, after the pump. If you were to pull up your weekly pivots, those were kind of our destinations we were looking at above us, at least initially. And if you could get through that area, we can then look to the prior week's open. However, in this case, it was just the weekly pivots that we were able to get to. And I'm only going to pull up the Bybit pivot, but you can see it right here. There's actually a China pivot just above it as well, if you were to use the exchange pivots tool that we have in the group. So yeah, you filled in your weekly pivot, which is to be expected, especially when you're that close. You've taken all these local highs and then re-entered the range. You could very easily look at this as a weekly range, or you could, come all the way over to here and say, all right, I want to pull an overall range. We'll look at both of those in a second. So losing the September high after reclaiming it and finding support on it yet again here, really need to be hanging on to this region. For me, we did have an 80-20. It was called out by H-Brus in the group. He beat me to it by a few minutes, right? So this is all I was watching. I say all, it's pretty messy. So I'm going to get rid of some things here. And we'll get rid of this. Okay. So for me, this was keeping it very simple. This is the prior day session trend. You can see it's not all that great. However, you do have a really nice move right here into the next day. We have our daily open. You can see the daily open has become resistance, which Max talks about the daily open frequently during his morning live streams, which he was live this morning. He took a short and got a win on stream. And you had this previous day point of control and the previous day VWAP close right here at a local gold pocket. That was something that was also pointed out in the group. However, you've got the bounce. What did you do? You rejected here right at the previous day val. So you found acceptance into the range. Once you're losing the previous day point of control, one would expect you to come down and probably cycle this range coming back to the September high and the previous day value area low. And that's really where I get interested in, maybe playing a potential intraday bounce if given, that's the only spot I think that you should be looking, just because you don't want to be playing in the middle of the range here, especially after a failed bounce like this and acceptance into the range. So you had a good trend. The trend is over. You've now established a new trend, right? You could very easily do this, and you can see it's a very tight consolidation on the way down. So I imagine this is going to probably adjust itself over the coming hours as the day wraps up, and we'll have a nice downtrend to play, and we can play the break of it. We can play just the trend itself, however you want to do it. But realistically, price is still range bound. Nothing is broken, right? So if we go back to like the daily time frame here, we're going to get rid of the Asia high. We just don't need that. You can see the daily open. This is where we were just talking about. That was resistance here recently. Okay, so we have the daily open right here, and you did take the prior day high. Okay, so the prior day high is always going to go in white, and you can see as well, if we go out to the weekly time frame, that we have major resistance right here into that weekly swing fail. Okay, so we'll just do this real quick. And we know the September high needs to be held. If the September high is not held, we would expect to see probably somewhere in this region right here, 22.4, give or take. So that's how I would be trading this as of right now. If I wanted to see a sign of strength for today, honestly, you probably need to get back above the daily open. That needs to be claimed. And then you can look for a push into this area right here, this box that we just mapped out between 23,745.50 and 23,967.50. I think that's unlikely to see today, but you never know. But as long as we're not breaking down below 22,810, things really don't look as bad as, maybe we're making them out to seem. And you can see that also would put you below your point of control on a closing basis. So yeah, you would expect to see this zone of the chart. You could, narrow it down a little more if you wanted to, like so. You could just take that wick and say, this is where I'd be expecting to be at, or you could move this box up a little bit to the point to this value area low, or you could just map out your local low right here from the 6th of February at 22,561. Whatever you need to do to set an alert for yourself so that you know to be ready for the area, right? So for right now, I'm more interested to see if we come down to 22,810, maybe even fill in some of these lower opens down here right around 22,753. So that is going to be the inflection point, because if you start putting pressure on this value area low and on this support, regarding these local highs that you're trying to flip into support right now, that's all you're trying to do is SR flip some market structure, right? If we just look at this, that's all it is. Then you're going to come down to the next one somewhere between 20,000 and 21,000, probably, in my opinion. I think that this would be pretty. I wouldn't be buying at the November high personally. I just don't think that's going to hold us up. I think that it's probably a temporary bounce zone. You'll get a reaction. I just don't think it's going to be the landing zone. More than likely, I'm looking probably closer to this blue box down here, taking out some of these lows, coming into a prior weekly low that we had mapped out previously as well, maybe even filling in a gap. And if things got really out of hand, you would have to be completely ready for a move all the way back down to where the lows of this range. And then that is where things start to give you this appearance right here. Okay. Like so. And then you can just go in, you can do basic fib work, and you can say, where's my gold pocket? It's right at the value area low, right at our local structural low. So you can see how things transpire. Lose 22.4. We're coming down probably closer to 20K, lose that, and you're probably heading down to this like 18.5 region, maybe a little bit lower on a wick basis. And then, we play the game of bounce or yearly open, right? And that's all it is. It's just a level to level game right now. And that's all going to be in conjunction with this right here on the DXY. So if we're getting a rejection on the DXY, I expect to remain range bound up here inside of this local range and not see these lower prices. However, you are flirting with the idea of coming back into this range, and we get rid of these weekly pivots. They're just not necessary. Coming back into this weekly range, or this overall higher time frame range, I should say, if we were to merge everything. So you can see you're trying not to find acceptance. It's all you're doing is trying to hang on to the value area high here. And if you were to lose it, you're probably going to fill it in and come down back into this region of the chart, at least the EQ of the range and the point of control. It would just stand to make sense. And if you lose this little area, which has been somewhat support before, you can see that these aren't really big consolidations. So you can see this is a relatively small consolidation in comparison to this one right here. Same with right here, another small consolidation. So when you're looking at something like this, do be aware that this could just be a bounce zone before making that move down to the lower half of the range, which is where a bulk of the time was spent. If you recall, our TPO point of control for the range was 19,150, and the overall point of control in terms of volume was up over 20,000. So that was when we were looking at ATS. I don't expect that to change. So you do have to bear that in mind. You can see that the high volume nodes on the 40 tick here are pretty much synonymous with each other, really emphasizing this 19,150 level yet again. So to me, it's not that there's not a lot of support here. Obviously, it's the most volume that's been done. However, just looking at how prices interacted through this range, this may just be a temporary bounce zone before a full-on move down to these lows where you've spent a bulk of the time since we've broken down, right? So keep that in mind if that plays out. Otherwise, if the DXY is getting a rejection, I would expect to see this remain range bound up here above this 22.4 area, and we could continue to play these levels looking to get through this box up here. And I really don't switch bullish for this move into the 26,724 mark until we flip this box. I think early signs, the way it's setting up right now, if you were to remain range bound, price doesn't, fall out of this range, then you could probably start moving this box for confirmation of a bigger move down a little bit. You probably could just move it to the 245 up to this area right here. You could start getting a little more aggressive with it, in my opinion, especially if you're seeing the things out of the DXY we just talked about, right? You could start saying that, okay, this is the area on the chart that I want to see claimed, and we'll go down to like a 4 hour, and I bet that looks pretty all right. There you go. So you can see if you get back above this box, what happens? Good things, right? Good things happen above this box. So very simply, we've now mapped off some basic support and resistance. We now have the range that we need. We know where our range is down here. It's coming in right here closer to 22.4 in my opinion. This September high is going to be key in that. As always, we've been talking about that level all week. Again, why is it so key? It's also our previous day value area low in this instance. So let's get rid of this. It's just no longer necessary. This is going to be an area of interest. So it's got the previous day range, and we don't want to see those ranges moving to the downside, obviously, which they already are, as we've been in kind of a daily downtrend for a little bit now. In terms of like local, like when I say daily downtrend, I mean, you can just see that the candles are going lower. It's technically, we're still making higher lows, so to speak, but you get what I mean there. The dailies are starting to trend down. And so if we start losing this area of the chart, where's our last daily lows? Right here at 22.8. So now you're going to start making lower lows on daily closures and daily, wick basis. And that starts to bleed into the idea of making a move down. However, I will always advise you guys, and I don't try to get into the whole, predicting if this pullback is going to be larger or not. What I want to say is if you're coming down into this region, this is why breakout traders get wrecked. Same with, to the upside, you're coming down to support. So expecting some form of a bounce is probably likely. And you can see this is where most of the demand for the range has been coming in. And so don't be shorting into this area. The idea behind buy low, sell high is short towards the top of the range, or the mid range in this case, which I'm not a huge proponent of, did offer up a really nice position as well if you took it. So now you'd be trading for 22.810 and 22.4 over time. And if those are lost, your stop loss is still up here and not necessarily in risk of like being right here and getting stopped out of that trade, or it running back up and leaving you in a really bad spot. So just understand you are coming into support. I think it's going to be fairly important support. You can see that you have like a low time frame swing fail. I'm sure Matthew has marked it out on his chart already. Somewhere right here around 22.723. You can see that it was support, wick into it right here. So I would imagine the next test is going to be in this region, more than likely somewhere like this. And if you lose this little box of support right here, you're probably heading to that 22.4, maybe a little bit lower. We'll see. And just as a reminder, Max has gone over it before. This is one giant single print. So if acceptance is found, you can expect it to fill out. So really watching the DXY here. Again, for those that weren't here yesterday, why are we watching this zone of the DXY? Well, it's just been such a key area on the chart. So you can see why when we zoom out a little bit here. I know this chart's a little messier than I would like it to be since we're on a high time frame, but support, pseudo support and resistance, 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 interim support for a 3-month candle. Remember, this is a 3-month candle, not a monthly. So this is actually a pretty good chunk of price action. Same with right here, here, and now we are hung up in that area here. So a bounce is to be expected, even if it's just a dead cat bounce out of the dollar. You are getting that support at technical levels. It's not really surprising. So not putting too much weight on anything else outside of just the charts right now. I think there's a lot of news going on between like what Jerome Powell is saying, things like that. So I do want to emphasize that trade the levels for what they are. Use proper risk management, put yourself in positions to, not get wrecked by volatility when it does come, but also enjoy this range. And that's what I mean by that. Trade the range. If you're trading the range, what are you doing? You're taking low risk longs at demand and you're taking low risk shorts at supply, right? That's all we're doing. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just navigating the range as we go. And I'm trying to show you guys how you can build that every day, like build your own charts, build your own plans, and go from there. So I don't really have much else. I'm going to roll it over to Max because I've been talking for 17 minutes and that's about what I went on yesterday.
So I'm actually looking at this golden pocket on the point of control from the range that we've got as my little area, but we'll go over the order flow of that in the minute. I just firstly want to go over what occurred after yesterday's stream. So when we stopped, we came down and tested the level which MATIC gave us. I know he took that long. I did not. Which you're going to get these fast moves up when you've analyzed that throughout a trend, you've got many short, many positions entering on one particular side. And for the past few days, we've known that there's been a lot of shorts entering. So when that's the case, oftentimes people move the stop losses down and you get price action like this, where you get a fast wick up to catch them off guard and to take them out of their positions. So that's what this move was. That's why there's such a huge decrease in open interest, is because it just takes so many shorts out of their positions that, there's nothing they can do. They're caught off guard. And then when price gets up here, they're probably thinking, shit, I need to close this short because this is going to keep going. That's how the psychology works. And they close the shorts, get the huge drop off in open interest. And then price comes down and they most likely regret closing the short or moving their stop loss down as they expected the downtrend to continue, but instead they get caught off guard by moves such as this. Then you had the SFP yesterday. So it was the SFP of pretty much all the lows made throughout the day. And it was very nice. If you look at it, you don't have trap traders as such, which is always one thing I like to see. You don't have that. But what you do have is a very, very, very clear delta switch up. So looking at the price and looking at them figures at the bottom, you can see it's gone from really heavy volume, really negative delta, decreasing open interest, taking out longs, to suddenly buyers having a lot of interest, to getting huge spikes in open interest. Granted, it's not equal. So there's definitely some shorts have entered here. So you've got some trap traders. But you're getting a huge spike in buying, and it continues in the next candle with tons of buying imbalances. These are the signals after you've analyzed that, okay, a swing failure pattern has occurred, and you're getting tons of buying imbalances with a load of buys in a particular level that one should be looking for buys. That can be your trigger to then take the trade and run it. And you're giving your first TP very quickly at the VWAP. And if you were able to hold it, you're given another SFP at the top. It's why when you're day trading, if you are day trading, if you can learn one particular trade, it has to be the SFP. It really does. It really does. It is simply the best. There is no trade quite like it, because it it happens at one end and then it goes and moves to the other. And the reason for that is Bitcoin as a behavior, it moves to take out the most people. If it spots liquidity, it seeks it. So it seeks the liquidity at the lows, takes them out, takes all the shorts out. Takes all the shorts out in this move, takes a ton of longs out. Buyers then find interest, and it goes to find the liquidity of the shorts after it's just taken out the buyers. It's literally opposing sides always. Takes out the shorts, takes out the longs, takes out the shorts. And it's SFP after SFP. It really is. So with that in mind, we can look for some levels. Now today, earlier on, before I went live, the day had been very crap for trading. It had just been a very slow, dull downtrend with nothing really happened. But one thing that you can take note of is when we were at these regions of the chart, you did have, granted there were some shorts, but overall, all the main open interest spikes were buyers, aggressive buyers coming into the market. Here, 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 and here. Many buyers coming in them regions. So with that in mind, with the price not really going anywhere, where do you look? Well, you look for their stop loss. That's the behavior of Bitcoin. Now we came down and we tapped on the VWAP, and there was also at the top of a golden pocket here. However, when we tapped it, you didn't really tap into the liquidity there. So this is when I started streaming, and I said, look, I'm kind of expecting a long to come, but I'm expecting it to come in the lower end of the golden pocket down to the VWAP, down to the weekly open. But then we got it on stream, and it was very, I clicked the wrong thing. It was very quick. This was literally a few seconds. And looking at it, you really didn't have any reason to buy there. Okay, it was an open interest drop. You had that decline. Sorry, there's something in my throat. You had that open interest decline, but then Delta didn't really switch up. So what we said was, we're going to wait for a claim of the VWAP, of the pivot, because then if you're claiming the pivot, you're putting some of the shorts that entered in this region underwater. But you want it to be a strong claim because it's a risky trade, given the low wasn't that good. So then, we came up here, you had a load of buyers coming in, you had a load of buyers coming in, and yet they really didn't push the price past it enough for us to warrant it to be claimed. So what we said in the live trading session when we took a short was, as soon as you get selling a balance here, it's pretty much going to be detrimental to, these traders, and you're going to look for, well, at least their stop losses to be taken. And you got it pretty quickly. It came down, it tested the weekly VWAP, I believe it was initially. And then, ultimately the main target was the golden pocket of, from the low that we've, this low back here, pulled to the high, which comes in at the point of control of the range. So it's a nice area to look for. Now, when we are here, we're there, but we are getting somewhat of a delta switch of this buying taking place. However, the thing to note, and the reason that I've held off on a trade on this just yet, is we're getting very large open interest spikes. Granted, there's overall more buyers. That's why the delta is positive. With that in mind, they're failing to take us anywhere. So, they're doing a bad job of pushing the price higher. But there is a lot of traders entering in these regions. You can tell by the open interest spikes. So whichever way price goes now, it's going to trap a lot of traders. So it's going to be a fast move. Now, the fast move to the downside is the more obvious one, because that would take this low and the previous day low, which most likely would take out the most traders in this position. Given where we are, point of control, gold pocket, the majority are going to be buying here. Really, I expect this region to be taken because there's no real local high, really, where traders are going to be putting their stop loss. But whichever way we go, I do think the next little move is going to be very big. I don't know what occurred there. But whichever move we go next is going to be very fast. But looking at it, I do think we're coming down to the previous day low and this low of this candle just to take out those traders. So be aware of that and trade the setup if it comes. What you want to see is, literally what we had yesterday. You want to see something like this. If you see something like this in the order flow, when you get down to this low again, take the trade. risk to reward is always so good on SFPs that they're the most fun. They're the safest trade. They're the trade you can profit off the most. Fuck, I love SFPs. Magic, I'm done. Getting all hot talking about SFPs, mate.
You said what?
I'm
Getting all hot and bothered talking about SFPs, huh?
I'm blushing a little bit. I'm blushing.
Blushing a little bit. Yeah, no, they are the best trade. So for those that are in the chat, if you're in the group, you already know that. Or if you've been watching any of our content for like the last couple years, even for me especially, I know Max hasn't been making it that long, but we've been talking SFP since like 2019 and 2020. So they are the best trades, and they continue to be. They even offer up good levels of support and resistance at some point on the high time frames. It's very, very to me, it's the window of also like getting into like understanding how price moves in terms of charting, because once you understand like why it's resistance on the order flow, you can then start building your chart accordingly and putting proper lines on there. Then it becomes much less about like random lines on the chart and more about actually knowing why that support is support, right? So as of right now, just waiting for the previous day value area low and that September high. I think you probably wick below there, kind of like Max was insinuating. There's no reason we shouldn't take those traders out of the market, but you have to understand it gives you extremely good invalidation, like he was just saying, and that's going to be what you want in terms of a good trade, because not only is it going to offer up usually the cleanest order flow and the best price action in terms of a stop loss, but it's also going to be just one of the easier trades you can take once you get your head around that whole premise, because you'll just start to recognize it over and over again. It's repetition. And as Max said, I think it was yesterday, Bitcoin's constantly seeking out liquidity. So you see this pattern over and over. It's one of the most common ones. It swing fails so much, and it's way cleaner than looking at the stock market. So definitely spend some time learning about it. I'd be curious to see what the DXY does today. It's pushing back into that zone, so we'll see if it can clear, let's call it 103.911. If you clear that on the DXY, that's the level, put it on your chart, then I think that you've got a good push to the next full percentage move up, which is like 104.775, which would be bad for Bitcoin, obviously. So I don't really have anything else, man. I did put some altcoins in here, so we will talk about those. I am not as talented as ChatGPT at the titles of these. So, and obviously ChatGPT did not make this title. So it's one of those where we're going to test out and see who actually watches these, or if it's just clickbait titles that AI generated. First one that was up was we were looking at QNT. And again, I'm only reiterating this because I feel like these opportunities are coming to us. And so we're on the 1 hour here, but what I want to highlight is our 145 pit stop. Again, if we go to the 3 month, right? That's where we got this level for anyone that was just wondering. And we were just talking SFPs, if you recall, myself and Max saying they can be really great support and resistance. Look where all the supply is coming in right here above 145. What does that mean? Could you come up and hit these targets? Yes. But should you be buying above this level to push for this last little leg up? No. So now we're looking back to where would I be interested in buying this asset now that we know this level is here? And if we see the monthly close above this, or the 3 month close above this, we then have a sign of strength and a sign of changed behavior on the price action, meaning that sellers are no longer maybe in control in this area. But until then, you go to the daily, you can see what happened when we got above it. People took profits, it became resistance. You go to the 1 hour, it gets even more clean. I'm sure the pattern trading boys and girls are yelling for a head and shoulders of some sort here. And if so, what are we looking for? In my opinion, probably somewhere down underneath this 124 level is where I'm interested in. And if I get that, I'll trade it. If I don't, guys, I probably just won't care. It is what it is there. It's one of those things where I'm not going to be buying at these interim levels of support, which in my opinion, that's what this was, the January VWAP close. If you guys recall, that's what we mapped out here. So you can see this is the close from January, and now we have a new monthly average. Even though it's only 8 days old, it's getting things fairly well, and it's lining up nicely with the Q1 point of control. So letting us know that you've got like a little mini range here. And if you wanted to, you could map out February, I'm sure, right here. Yeah, it's 1 hour off, but it's okay. Yeah, look at that. So again, where's the value area high of our range? 145 at our pit stop, at our identified level. And it's also the POC of both January and the quarter, which are February and the quarter. It's to be expected because they are kind of synonymous with each other. But you've got a little mini range here. You break below this January VWAP close, I expect to see that dump into probably sub 124 and like that 121.18 level, maybe as low as 113. You've got this little wick down here that I'd keep an eye on, but would offer up a really clean bounce, I think, and give us a decent trade, even if it's just a quick SR flip back to resistance. So if we can get that move, I'm interested in trading it. Otherwise, I'm not doing much with this one. I've already taken my profits on the move up. I do have some of the position left as I was getting in down in this region, playing this accordingly. I was enjoying the price action. So I did trade it. And then you had a nice consolidation as well, just beneath the 12M for 2023. So MATIC was the other one we talked about yesterday. MATIC actually did what we said it would, but also did more. So we're going to talk a little bit about MATIC. MATIC did its own thing yesterday. It made a new high, which I was not expecting that. So we were looking at MATIC saying, okay, we're expecting MATIC to maybe rotate this range in full, because you can see right here is where we left off. We were talking about how we have not rotated in full yet. So you can see the value area high of this range is above us, and we have this little like SFP level right here I'm going to get rid of. So your value area high was front run. What did you do? Well, technically, was it front run right there, or was it sooner than that? Yeah, no, there you go. You've come down to the point of control and your yearly pivot, which is support. And what did you do? You went up and you took the value area high, then came all the way back to your POC and that yearly pivot before bouncing with the rest of the market. And you ran it to what? Your trend high. So this is the trend for the developing year. And that has gotten things really well at the highs here. And now you're looking to flip this previous local high that was put in at 128. So if you start living below 128, you're going to find your way back into this range most likely, which now will extend over. You'd be looking for the back test of the range coming in at 125. I know it's only a 3-cent move, but if you're trading this, it's one of those things where that's very, very useful information to have, I suppose. And then down to 122 over time. And 122 is now the point of control, which, it stands to make sense. It's your yearly pivot, your 12M1. It's the most important level that was generated on this chart coming into the new year, in my opinion. And so it does stand to make sense that it is currently the POC where most of the volume or transactions occurred on this asset thus far as we've been up here. So very nice how that's worked out. And it gives us a really clean level-to-level experience, meaning that if you live below 128 here, the prior local high that you've now taken, you start breaking below it. I expect to probably see 122 over time. You may get an interim bounce out of the value area high here, which is a local gold pocket. So that's really, really nice, right? So you've got your February value area high coming in right here at the gold pocket around that 125 mark. However, that you could see a bounce from there down to if that occurs, you could see something like this where it comes back up into this region of resistance and then down, right? So you just play the moves for what they are. Me personally, I don't get into day trading these altcoins too much, but they do offer up really nice little trades. They're just like Bitcoin. They're not going to be in the sense that they don't respect TA. They definitely do. So I'd be watching this area with a lot of interest. If you lose that area, I think 122 is likely, but you probably cycle the range, in my opinion. There's not a lot of volume down here. So I would imagine you're coming back down to that 117 area, and that still remains the key area to hold on to. It's your structural lows here on your trend. So if you want to see this trend continue, you do need to be hanging on to this region, not losing these lows, just like on Bitcoin, because if you do, I think you're coming back down to a penny and 1 cent, and that is where I am going to be waiting to see the reaction to see if I'm interested in this one again in terms of a medium-term bounce or swing. However, we have to remember that I'm not a presetter, meaning that I'm not going to set for these levels. If I'm not available to take the trades, I just don't take them. I know that's kind of controversial because a lot of people like to just set it and forget it. But me and Max both kind of, I wouldn't say we shun it, but we definitely, we definitely don't like to see that. So what else did we have on the docket? Bitcoin, MATIC, QNT. We covered the DXY. Let's see. I don't ever really look at Ethereum. It just doesn't interest me. I let CV Ho do that one. Yes, Solana is not doing anything. The analysis has not changed. Still expecting to see this area of the chart over time. $22.11 is such a key region. All these lows would be taken into it as well. And you can see this was your 6M1, so another high time frame level at high time frame resistance. I do think over time, though, you're probably making your way back down to here eventually. So not too much to talk about there. And Atom was a big one. This is one that I did trade as well. I'm big on Atom. And with the push back up on Bitcoin, you can see altcoins are pumping a little bit harder, which is usually the end of a trend when you see that. And you've now got Atom here in this massive Gartley that's now hit the trend-based target of the 618 in the local high here at C. So that's all this is your daily local highs for this pattern. So all you've done is mapped off the open to the wick. And you've noticed that this is your XAD trend-based gold pocket. So this is resistance. And timing on this one, I'm actually interested in this in the beginning of March and June. That's kind of obscure, but this is resistance until it's not. So, bear that in mind. It's not the end of the world by any means. You do have a larger range here, which I really need to go through this thing and itemize a little bit better. But we might look at, what do we got going on here? Yeah, I'm still not interested in this one until we're sub $12 probably, to be upfront with you guys. Just on a pullback, this is very aggressive. I would be interested in this region of the chart. And you can see why. This is where you settled up. So support, 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 resistance, 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 back into support, and then up. So I'm interested in this region of the chart again. It's your Q1 area as well. And let's take a look at the overall range, because this is, do we include this little guy? Let's not. Yeah, look at that. Your point of control is just beneath it. So yeah, I'm really not interested until we're back down closer to this region. Probably going to mark out this local low right here, or you could just put an alert on the monthly pivot. I think that would probably do it for me. So this is where I become interested again if I'm a buyer, right? That's just the thing, is that's the goal. Name of the game is buy low, sell high, right? So you have to be patient for that. This could not hit, and we just don't get to take that trade. But I'm okay with not buying up here. I'm not missing out on anything not buying up here. I've already filled some bids in this region anyway. I've taken some profits. I'm not going to close the entire position, but I'm not going to add to it up here. It's just not smart. I'm going to wait till it's on my terms and play the bounce accordingly. So I don't really think I have anything else. Let me check the chat. Moon soon.
Is the chat working for you? I can't see anything.
I'm on YouTube watching it, but yeah, it's not working on Restream. I noticed that.
Thought the chat was dead. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, OC, I don't trade cup and handles. I'll look at it real quick for you. We'll talk about it. So I assume we're talking cup and handle. I would assume this is the cup and this is the handle. Yeah, I don't like that at all. I'm not going to lie. I don't know who. Yeah, I'm not a fan. But, in every cup and handle, or every inverse head and shoulders is a cup and handle, but I don't really see, a big one right now. Now, let's say that this is a cup and handle, though. These aren't. We actually have the books. Bolkowski are in the group, just so you guys know. So if you want like the actual from the pattern trader himself that basically invented a lot of these things and gathered the statistics, Bolkowski is great. I think we have both editions available for download in there. You would be looking down to the 50% mark as a general rule. I don't think it has to be that way, but as a general rule, you don't want to see anything below the 50%. So if we're looking at this from a cup and handle standpoint, like let's say this is a cup and a handle, it does allow for a dip all the way back down to like 19.8, which to me is totally fine, because you can see that you would just be putting in a higher low potentially before continuing up, which we all know is likely at some point. And this is a pretty big area on the chart. You guys know that we were looking at, let's get rid of all this stuff. This was the original chart that I've been working off of, which hasn't really let me down, but it is getting to a point where the timing of it might be letting me down. I was looking at this, and we can get rid of this guy. We just don't need the volume up, right? So this was the way we were looking at it. Obviously, you can see I have one important level on here, and it's 22,407, which has been phenomenal. And then we have our box right here, which I was really patient on. I had to be. But this was the resistance we were looking to get through. And should you get through this, well, you're looking up to this box. And this still comes in like into like March and into February, which is, 3, 4, 5 weeks away. And we all know what can happen in 3, 4, 5 weeks. However, this is an area, it's the gold pocket of your trend. Like, let's say that you're counting this whole thing right here as a channel, just a very easy way to look for your trend-based gold pocket. It's very clean. I'm very, very happy with this channel. So I'd be looking down, I would be looking for the next support region. As of right now, I'm just not interested in buying into this resistance. It just doesn't make sense. Doesn't mean that you have to flip bearish and be like, okay, we're going to make a new low. It just means, lock in some profits, which you guys see me do regularly. And we look for support. And then when we get to support, we don't marry the idea that we have to buy that dip. I know there's a lot of people out there just saying just buy the dip, buy the dip. I think that does work for a certain period of time, because, bull markets do happen. I do think it's a little premature to think that we're just going straight back into this up only phase of price action. I think that it could be a little more painful at the bottom than people think. I think Bill Noble said it best: bottoms don't always trade the best. They trade kind of ugly. So, but yeah, could this be a cup and handle? Sure. If we're going off of that presumption, the 50% mark is something to keep in mind for the handle, and that's at 19.8, if that's how we're looking at it. So do bear that in mind. Me personally, you know how I like to do things. I like ranges and horizontal levels. I just think it's better. And I'm looking at some levels with a lot of interest. And again, I want to reiterate, come back over to the DXY. You can see exactly where we're looking to get back above. It's right here, the top of this little blue box. If you're above it, what happens? Well, good things for the dollar happen. Bad things for price. And this is also your 2016 and 17 highs. So they do have quite a bit of confluence there. If you get a rejection here, though, and Bitcoin's holding on to support, or maybe you just get that flash wick down to wipe out some of the stops there and fill a bigger position, you could very easily see this, Bitcoin actually turn around here and make that move up. But it's going to really be dependent on this chart right here. I would keep a close eye on it. So hopefully that's helpful. Max, you got anything to add before we hop off here? It's been 42 minutes.
No, but we've had a ton of open interest come in the last 15 minutes. So I'm expecting whichever move it's downwards. I don't think it's going to be upwards. But I really expect it to be quite a fast, quite a heavy one. So, it's going to offer us an opportunity. But yeah, we're getting a ton of open interest coming in here. So expecting the low to be taken.
Say it's really just hovering above that previous day val and September high right now. Where's the previous day low? 22.7, 42.50. You think we'll get down there and take that out?
With this that we've got here, I just don't see it not taking the low here. I just don't see it coming and taking that low. So, there you go.
Well, for everyone that stuck around and caught the nugget there, then we're still looking for a new low to be made. And when that new low is made, we can see if it's worth taking a position. So it looks like we're hitting the September high now. But all right, guys, I'm going to end the stream as it's been 42 minutes. I appreciate all of you guys that are in here. Did only air it on one channel. He goes, not me. Supposedly cup and handle over Bitcoin. I feel like you're shilling me some crypto stuff here. I'd rather not say the source. 1 hour. Oh, you were looking at this? That is not a cup and handle. That is a downtrend, my friend. That's fine. That's funny. That's okay. we don't need to name any names or anything, nor shame anyone, nor should we shame pattern traders either. Everyone's got their own style of doing things. Everyone has a win rate and a loss rate because nobody wins all the time. So get whatever you're comfortable with. And if it works for you and you're winning enough trades to make money in this market, that's actually pretty good. So otherwise, I will catch you guys in the next one. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream, and we'll chat later. Max is smirking because he knows I'm not sharing my screen, even though I was looking at it.
No, we're at the previous day low. We've just done it. Just taken the low.
Did we take the previous day low, or did we just front run it?
We've taken the other low.
Okay. Yep. There you go. Oh, beauty.
And I got caught vaping. I thought my camera was off, so I took a toke on my e-cig, and then Alicat in the group.
Yeah, Max is one of those guys that he vapes and stuff. He's got a Subaru Outback. Yeah, little hipster Justin Bieber over there. It's bad for your voice, man. You're not gonna be able to be a pop singer if you're over there vaping. It's bad for the lungs.
Oh no.
Oh no. Yeah. Anyway, all right, guys, I'm gonna hop off here. Cheers.